If you are currently feeling stuck at work, if you feel out of balance, if you feel it's super hard to set boundaries, and you either are way too creative or you just cannot get things done, this podcast is for you. Hi, my name is Fela and I want to welcome you to the Corporate Warriors podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about a super important topic that is not at all talked about, in my opinion. By far not enough. It's the topic of female and masculine energy at the workplace. So let's dive in. The concept of female and masculine energy is a old concept. It's nothing that just came up now from some woo-woo spiritual people. It's something really old. And I guess you all know the symbol of yin and yang, and that's exactly what it symbolizes. So yin is standing for the feminine energy, whereas yang is standing for the masculine energy. And now both energies have some very specific attributes to them. And in this podcast, we're going to figure out how you can spot if somebody is or is not in balance in their energy. And then also what you can do when you feel you're not in the balance that you should be, but you really want to use your energy to the best and create this career that is just flowing, that feels natural to you, that feels in flow, in tune, and authentic to you. So we're going to take a look at what it all is about. We're going to take a look at what the reasons for this imbalance are and how you can spot them. We're going to dive quickly into the topics of feminine energy and masculine energy at the workplace and what that might mean. We're going to take a look at how to get back into the balance by fostering whatever is not really fostered right at that specific point in time. So what is really interesting about this topic is that in reality, it has nothing to do with being a man or being a woman, because both male and females, we all have feminine and masculine energy in us, and we all should strive to have our individual balance. Some people are a bit more masculine in the energy type, some a bit more feminine, but we all need a sort of balance in order to feel good, to feel ourselves, and to be in flow. So what does it mean to be in your feminine energy? It means that you are creative, that you can be nurturing and have this nurturing side. You're lovable, you take care of others as well. You not just focus on your own, but also take a look at what's going on around you. Those kinds of people that live that really well are very often working in care situations because they just love being there for other people. They love to nurture. They're oftentimes also very creative. So when we're in this feminine energy, we love to be creative, take care of others, also take care of ourselves. And we can be open, we can be vulnerable to some extent, but we are also very powerful when we're in the creator mode. Also, that is part of the feminine energy within us. Whereas on the other hand, let's say for each of the energy types, there's a good coin and a bad side of the coin. So if you live it right, that's exactly what you're getting. So you're in this creator mode, you're innovative, you take care of others, but also of yourself, which is a very natural and balanced state. Whereas if you're in negative energy state, of a negative female energy state, what could also happen is that you become manipulative or passive aggressive very often because you don't set boundaries. So instead of articulating your boundaries, which is more masculine, you become passive aggressive because you don't say what you actually want. There could be some codependence created and some feeling of powerlessness. So that's, let's say, the flip side of a negatively lived feminine energy or unlived feminine energy, how that can be expressed in your outer world and how you can see that if your colleagues, for instance, are not living their feminine energy to the extent that they should. So the repercussions of that are negative to the whole team, to the person itself, to their family, to literally everybody around you. For the masculine energy, it's very different. For the masculine energy, standing for more being hyper-focused, having action plans, setting very clear boundaries, being very rational and logic, in contrast to the intuitive side of the feminine energy. It can also be protective, which could mean setting boundaries as well, being engaged, analytical, independent, very strong in their words. And all of that are the positive sides of the masculine energy. Whereas also here, the coin can have two sides if it's not lived out properly. So what is the negative, the flip side of that? If it's not in balance, not in tune, that can become very arrogant, manipulative, and also controlling, very competition focused, which is really the opposite to being in a creator mode where you act more like the company Apple said. We don't care about what our competition does because we want to create something new. We don't want to compare to others. Whereas negative masculine energy can become very competitive and can also become the kind of energy that is abusing power. So both of the energies, as you can see, they have good sides, and if they're not lived properly, if you don't give them space, they also can become negative. And already here, having discussed this in a first overview, it's already becoming clear that in modern day corporations, most of the people are really striving for that masculine energy only. And that comes with a lot of issues, especially if you take a look at some women around us that want to accelerate their careers, they want to succeed in their careers. Very often they kind of shut down their feminine energy, their feminine side to them, because we have been brought to believe that only masculine energy can bring us forward in our careers. Whereas my message, as you know, is that in order to have a long-term career that is satisfying to you, you need to be authentic. You need to be able to represent yourself authentically in order to be proud of your accomplishments and in order to be able to have the energy and the passion and commitment to do it in the long term. Because careers is not just a one-year project. Your career is going on for decades. So I think it's really, really important to understand some basic concepts, and then you can figure out for yourself, is this something that resonates with me? Because very, very likely, either you're super interested, that means it resonates with you and it's probably a topic that is of interest to you, or the flip coin of it, you hate the topic. It's like the worst thing, red flag. That means that probably there's also an issue with your masculine and feminine energy, because why does it trigger you so much? Why is it such a big deal to talk about that or to listen to it, to think about it? If it's a trigger, that's very often a sign of you that we have some stuff to work on ourselves. So just giving that as a prenup basically to the episode. It is important you decide what you want to adapt, obviously, or not, but it's just really, really interesting to take a look at your workplace and at your career from many different lenses and then decide for yourself what it is that you want to change. And you can do it on your own, you can do it with a coach, it's however you want. Here, I'm really here for just giving you the theory, the backgrounds, and making you more aware of things that are going on within you and outside of you so you can make the best decisions for your career. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the topic so that you have it easier to actually understand the patterns behind your actions and the actions of your boss, the actions of your colleagues, in order to understand where you're at currently at your company. And then you can see if there's something that you want to change, and you'll get some very straightforward and clear ideas what you can do in order to improve the situation for yourself. And then ideally, through the ripple effect, the situation will also be better for the people around you just by the pure model effect. But let's start with ourselves and let's start taking a look and understanding the patterns, because it's always, as you know, the most important thing is becoming aware of what's actually going on in order to figure out what there is that you want to change, and then doing the things, making the action happen, and then living a better, more holistic and happy life. So if you are in your female energy and using your female energy actively in a positive manner at work, what that means is that you are open for collaboration. You like to work together with others to create something new. You are a good communicator. So very often when people have issues communicating well, let's say you have a leader that doesn't like or is not really good at communicating, very often that has to do with the controlling side of the negative masculine, where they're afraid if they say something, perhaps there might be repercussions from it, or perhaps people might expect something else happening after a certain speech. So instead of going there and putting themselves out there, they rather hold back and not communicate too much, so they have seemingly more control over the situation and subsequent things that might happen if they do not talk. The second thing is empathy and compassion. So this is something also that when you think of a very successful leader, we not necessarily think about somebody very compassionate or empathic, but in reality, that's what everybody seeks. And it's again not an either or situation. You know the symbol of yin and yang, it's both yin and both yang in combination in the right balance. So yes, to be a good leader, to be a good colleague, and to be also eligible for promotions, you need to be likable, and likability has a lot to do with empathy and compassion to some extent as well. It doesn't mean that we leave all efficiency behind or productiveness, but it means that we don't close off that part of our identity, because we can only be our best selves and bring the best results also for a company if we acknowledge and take advantage of all there is to us. So I think shutting down empathy or even intuition and creativity, it's not a good idea. We already have this one podcast about intuition for your career and at the workplace. So if you want to take a look at that, I think that's completely underrated, and it can be literally a competitive advantage also to you, to see it from a more masculine standpoint, if you use that to your advantage in your career when you're interacting with your colleagues, your managers, or presenting something. With feminine energy also comes the possibility to be flexible and to adapt to new situations. So the feminine energy and the basic idea behind is also that everything comes in cycles, like the feminine cycle. So it's also about, adapting to new situations. Like women have to adapt to new kind of hormone situations throughout their cycle each and every time of the month. And it comes with nurturing and support as well. So those are definitely things that I think if you did a survey overall, many people would say that's what they want to see in a leader. But if you also, on the other hand, showcase that too much and don't show your masculine side as well, you might be seen as too weak to make tough decisions, right? So again, it's about the balance, but it's important for you to understand what each side brings with it so that you can see, on the one hand side, the advantages of each of the sides and figure out where it is that you need to work a little bit more on for you to be balanced and your best self. And now let's take a look at the masculine energy, where that can help us in our careers. It can help us with clear focus and determination. So what happens, for instance, in a lot of coaching practices is that people are only on the minds. So like, this is the plan, 5 years, we make this analysis, and then you push through. And that's fine to some extent, because yes, you can get things done. Now, what my personal perception is you do need that. You need persistence, you need proactivity, you need to have a plan in mind of what you actually want to do. But wouldn't it be nicer if you could implement that in a self-loving way so that you celebrate your own successes, but if there's a day where you're really feeling sick, you don't blame yourself for not doing the to-do list for that day. Do you get what I'm saying? So what about we mix that? So the focus and determination of the masculine energy that is often used in, let's say, more systematic coaching approaches is very, very helpful. And what I'm doing in a holistic approach is to integrate that with intuition, with your gut feeling, with flexibility and adaptability and some self-love. Now, what else about the masculine energy? It's also very much about decision making, and that is a crucial part in leadership as well. But now imagine, we come from the feminine energy side, and I said communication is part of that. And now on the masculine side, you have decision making. What is a decision worth if you're not able to communicate it to your employees? I guess we've all been there. We've all had leaders that made perhaps even great decisions, but it's so hard to understand as a worker, as an employee, what's going on and why we should change strategies and why we should do something if it's not communicated properly. So also great example why both is needed. And decision making, on the other hand, for people that are very, very much in a female energy seems to be impossible. So they never set boundaries, they never make clear-cut decisions, and then they get rolled over, they get over-flooded, and they end up in a burnout, which is not necessarily their fault, but they could have prevented it by being aware of what's going on and then working, in this case, on the masculine side more in order to develop and nurture that part of their energy, which is missing, so that they have balance again. Hope that all makes sense. Masculine energy also comes with the analytical thinking part. So again, this is the counterpart to the intuition. The intuition is like, I see what's going on. I cannot necessarily give you full detailed, analysis why I think we should do it, but I think we should. Whereas then the analytical thinking, this is more than like the data-driven approach. And also here, you do need to interpret that data. So I want to challenge you for interpretation of the data that you have. Would it hurt you to include some of your intuition to that? Then also with that comes the confidence and assertiveness. So be able to stand there, communicate perhaps what you want and need, and then be okay if somebody's not okay with that. That's totally fine. But also something that some people that are too much in a feminine energy and don't acknowledge their masculine side have a huge problem with. And last but not least, also structure and organization. So really this, like I said before, this clear-cut plan, the action plans, the project plans that are detailed until the very last bit, until the last, half a man day planned out. That's very masculine. And it is not a judgment. All is good and has its place in corporate. But also here, we all know the project plans that are so great, so much detail. And then reality hits and people are sick. And then reality hits and there's a change in strategy, new requirement coming in. And if you don't have enough of the female energy that gives you flexibility and adaptability, you will go nuts. And you'll probably not communicate well in that situation. And that will not make you look good, no matter how great the project plan was in the first place. Because you'll look like you're unable to adapt and be flexible and to acknowledge if perhaps a strategy had a flaw that has been ruled out by now. So it all needs to come together. And it is hard, like balance is always the goal. But since it's the goal, it means we're never in balance. We're always a little bit more here or a little bit more there. So there's always something to do. There's always something to take care of for us to stay in this balanced situation. So it's like if you compare it with eating. I congratulate you if you're like a super healthy eater 100% of the time, but that is not really natural in a sense that it's not very human. A natural or human way of healthy eating is probably 90%, 85% healthy stuff, and you leave some room for French fries, you leave some room for ice cream. Because if you don't do that at all and you retain yourself too much from both sides of the spectrum, you might then completely lash out one day, and after 3 days of really a great diet, you start to completely overeat on the other shit that you didn't really want. Why? Because you never were in balance. Your plan was not set on a natural, healthy balance. It was set on a very unhealthy, masculine-only project plan or agenda that was just focusing on discipline and pushing through. And that's not very human. We all know that. So let's rather make plans that fit to our nature, and then we're not going to be disappointed, and we can continuously improve. And we can also play with that. So the great thing is you can have phases in your life where you just do need to push through. Is it something bad? I would not say so. It could be that you have a very hard-cut deadline. Let's say you're in the construction industry and some shopping mall needs to be finished by day X because there's already, let's say, a concert planned and there's so much going on around it. There's like no way that this shopping mall is not gonna be ready. So in those kinds of situations, you can actively engage in your masculine energy and foster that and tap into it. And that's totally fine, as long as afterwards you give yourself some space as well to tap back into the feminine energy. So what I want to say with that is that a balance don't always has to be at the exact same moment in time. But overall, let's say throughout the month, throughout the quarter, it should be balanced. And it's up to you how to balance it. I personally really want to help people to also balance it throughout their workday so that it's very, feasible for them, so that it's fun for them. But potentially you could also say right now at work, I just need a lot of masculine energy for XYZ reasons. The reason could be that within the team, we have a lot of female energy. So you need this counterpart of person that brings in the masculine structure and analytics and all of these things. Now then in the team, the balance is kind of protected again or established again. But then this person with the plenty of masculine energy in the team should go home and take care of their feminine side and be allowing themselves to live their feminine energy. For instance, by supporting other people, by practicing some self-care and self-love, by having some rituals that brings them back into balance so that they can go back to the workplace the next day and use their masculine energy again. Does it make sense? I know it's kind of a big topic and it's kind of new to many people. So I try to make it as easy as possible and give you real clear-cut examples. And it's really never about judgment. It's really only about figuring out what's the right balance for you. And then understanding, once you have the feeling that I'm just going to work and forcing myself through the day since 2 years, then probably that's not healthy for you. And one reason is that just forcing through, pushing through, doing things without using the rest of your body, meaning your gut feeling, your intuition, your creativity, shutting all of that down on a constant basis. It's not healthy. So I want you to be aware of it. And then perhaps you come to the point in time where you say, well, actually, I cannot see myself in this company doing that because there's no projects. There's just no need at this point for more female energy, let's say. So perhaps when you switch companies, you can then take a close look again and say, okay, how are they working? You can ask very specific questions in the interview. You don't have to tell the interviewer that you're talking right now about female and male energy and have to explain them anything. But you can ask very specific questions about how is it? Are we only data driven, or is there also some room for creativity? Is there also some possibility to help others? For instance, internal mentoring programs. It's a great way to nurture also your female energy at work and feel the appreciation through that from your mentee. So there's really a lot of things that you can do in order to create the balance that you need so that your career feels good to you. You feel that you can use all of you, all that there is to you, and you can stay in balance and hopefully prevent, therefore, also burning out. So that's the whole pitch, the whole topic. I really think this is something that we should talk way more about. I would not be surprised about myself if there were another podcast about that later down the line. So far, I think that was it about the introduction. I hope that you can already apply that a little bit. If you like that kind of contents, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me a lot. And yeah, check out the captions for more information if you're seeking for personal advice or want to take a look at our nice career workbook that helps us to become more aware at work as well. Then, feel free to take a look at the caption, and I really hope to see you next time.